I'm Christine Persichetti with this current news update. Pope Francis is in Slovakia, only the second pope to visit the country after Pope John Paul II's pilgrimage there in 2003. Francis began his four-day trip meeting with Slovakian priests and religious. Pope Francis greeted with cheers from the crowd and a welcome from Archbishop Stanislav Smolenski, the president of the Slovak Bishops' Conference, as he walked into the Cathedral of St. Martin to meet with clergy and other religious leaders. The Holy Father began his speech expressing his desire to walk with the Church in Slovakia.
Chiesa non è una fortezza, non è un potentato, un castello situato in alto che guarda il mondo con distanza e sufficienza.
Francis encouraged freedom, creativity, and dialogue to keep the Church from becoming self-absorbed. He even gave the clergy some practical advice to keep their homilies to 10 minutes.
Un professore che io ho avuto di omiletica diceva che una omilia deve avere coerenza interna, un'idea, un'immagine e un affetto. Che la gente se vada con un'idea, con un'immagine e qualcosa che si è mosso nel cuore.
And Pope Francis was hoping to move the hearts of those who attended Mass on Sunday in Budapest during the first leg of his trip. The pontiff made a plea for immigrants. In a speech at the end of the service, he referenced a growing anti-immigrant sentiment happening in countries like Hungary, Slovakia, the Czech Republic, and Poland, and appealed to them to help their neighbor.
The cross urges us to keep our roots firm, but without defensiveness. To draw from the well springs, opening ourselves to the thirst of the men and women of our time. My wish is that you be like that, grounded and open, rooted and considerate.
The four countries have imposed strong limits on new entries, including those who are trying to eventually reach wealthier European nations. Crux's very own Rome bureau chief, Inez San Martin, is getting a first-hand look at Pope Francis's trip this week. She's traveling with the pontiff. Inez joins us now to give us the inside scoop on his journey so far. And Inez, this was the Pope's first international trip in months and the first since his surgery. So how's he holding up and how are the crowds receiving him?
I have to say, we were all journalists traveling with him, honestly surprised at just how upbeat, healthy, and almost ready to meet with people again. We found him when we first flew out with him to Hungary. The crowds have been surprisingly big, actually. We weren't really expecting the number we saw, for instance, yesterday during the Mass at Hungary. But on the other side of it, and we're used to seeing this kind of crowds in Latin American countries where we hear the cheering and the screaming and the Viva el Papa and Papa Francesco, we love you. And here it was a lot more like clapping of hands and little flags being waved. It was beautiful, but not as loud as, 100,000 people would have been in Peru.
And then we're talking about the crowds. What about COVID? Did everybody have to be vaccinated to attend?
Well, that one was a little bit of a shocker. People had to be vaccinated for all events in Slovakia. But at the end of the day, at the very last minute, they changed that because less than 50% of the population that needs to be vaccinated has received the vaccine. So they didn't want to, ban people from attending when at the end of the day, the vaccination campaign has not been as successful. In Hungary, on the other hand, 70% of the adult population had the vaccine. So yeah, they were very relaxed.
That was Crux Rome bureau chief Inez San Martin traveling with Pope Francis. She'll join us again Tuesday with another update. The FBI released a newly declassified document about the 9/11 attacks over the weekend. The 16-page report reveals that two of the Saudi-born hijackers had contact with Saudi nationals living in the U.S. leading up to the terrorist operation. But it does not draw any direct links between the hijackers and the Saudi government. President Joe Biden had requested the report be made public ahead of the 20th anniversary of 9/11. Members of the NYPD gathered over the weekend to remember the lives lost on September 11th. 23 officers died that day, but many more have died since due to 9/11 related illnesses. NYPD chaplain Monsignor Robert Romano recognized them during Mass at Our Lady of Guadalupe Church in Bensonhurst. Family members of officers killed in the terrorist attacks sat with department officials who recognized their service and sacrifice.
We get together, we honor those that have fallen, we honor their sacrifice, and we keep their memory alive.
9/11 is still a part of us. I buried a police officer only last week, and he died of 9/11 disease. And we have several other people who are in the hospital, several other people who are combating 9/11 diseases every single day.
More than 200 NYPD officers have died of 9/11 related illnesses. Governor Kathy Hochul throwing down the gauntlet against the new pro-life law in Texas, saying New York will be a, quote, haven for people from elsewhere who seek abortions.
But it's not just Texas, it's Ohio, it's Mississippi, it's Alabama, all across the nation.
The Texas law essentially bans all abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy. Monday was the first day back to class since the pandemic's lockdowns for the city's nearly 1 million public school students. And the day got off to a shaky start with reports that the city's health screening website was only working sporadically, causing delays at some school entryways, so people had to fill out screening forms manually. The city's public school system is all in person this term with no online option. But we remind you the Diocese of Brooklyn is offering the city's only online learning option, and enrollment at the St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic Online Academy is still open for the next few days. Families can register at stacoa.org to find more information about tuition and financial aid. Despite the challenges of the pandemic, one priest in the Diocese of Brooklyn opened up a food pantry to help the needy. And now Father Dwayne Davis is being recognized as a COVID-19 hero. Currents News' Jessica Easthope caught up with him in Flatlands and shares his story.
The boxes of eggs and milk.
Father Dwayne Davis looks at this glass door that's become known as the Wall of Fame.
Boxes upon boxes.
On it are the more than 60 volunteers who helped at St. Thomas Aquinas' food pantry during the height of the pandemic.
In a real sense, that Wall of Fame is part of our history. When we tell our COVID story, we can tell that's going to definitely be a part of that. It's what it means to be a hero.
Father Davis says he wouldn't be a COVID-19 hero without all those people. That's what this award says. He was given it by Brooklyn Borough President and Democratic mayoral candidate Eric Adams.
It's not something you do to acquire friends and popularity.
From April to August of 2020, St. Thomas Aquinas opened a food pantry that quickly became a massive operation. It was the first parish pantry to have a drive-up option, and in that time fed more than 69,000 families.
Some people had the money to pay the rent, but they didn't have money to get food. And for us to be able to help them in such a way was really a great joy.
Father Davis says the food pantry's reach will forever be part of parish history. But more than that, it's part of its legacy. In Flatlands, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Sunday marked a very special birthday for a very special man. The nation's oldest World War II Army veteran, Lawrence Brooks, turned 112. To celebrate, his friends and neighbors threw him a proper New Orleans parade. When asked about the secret to longevity, he says, serve God and be nice to people. Great advice. That is this Currents News update. The newscast will be back to its full length this fall when we move to our new studio. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news.